November the 22nd, 1963, John Fitzgerald Kennedy and Jackie come to Dallas, and there will be one of the best hoaxes ever. Supposedly, John Fitzgerald Kennedy is assassinated. Now, it was all a hoax. And the purpose of this video is not to uncover the hoax. There's plenty of good ones out there, and I'm not even going to go into that. What I'm going to talk about is, why was there a hoax? And I'm not sure that anybody is even talking about that. So I'm going to bring to your mind one major reason why this hoax was done. There would be several, but I think the most important reason is that it was a major distraction for the nation. So in other words, if the nation is looking at what happened in Dallas and trying to cope with the loss of a president, the nation is distracted because the nation is in a state of mourning. Now, it's false death and it's witness to false death. But why? Well, everything ties to, guess what? Money. And 1964 will be the last year for silver coins. So you see that at one time we had coins that had silver in them. Okay, now when you have a coin and it has a precious metal in it, the coin has intrinsic value. In other words, it's worth its weight in silver. Now, the U.S. was taken off the gold standard under FDR. Now, when I was growing up, if we can look at this image right here, now the reason I'm zeroing in on that image is because it brings to mind memories for me. When I was growing up, my father informed me that the last year for silver to be in coins was 1964. And he told me that. And at the particular time, I was old enough to earn a little bit of money on my own, and I started to put aside quarters that looked like this, and Mercury head dimes, and even Roosevelt dimes, the ones that still have the silver. Okay, and if you look at these images too, you'll see 50-cent pieces had silver in them too, the Franklin. Okay, and of course if you go back in time, even to the barber head dimes, there was silver content. Now if we look down here, I remember getting a couple of these actually in change. Kennedy was placed on the 1964 half dollar, and it was still silver. Okay? So it's almost as if to say that this is like a marker. Kennedy is assassinated, hoax assassinated, So people will not be thinking about the fact that there will be no more silver in the coins. No more intrinsic value. So the monetary system is getting less and less valuable. So that brings us to another part of the story, and that is what are called United States notes. This is what a United States note looks like. You can see it up here above the head of Lincoln. United States note. Now note, there's a difference between the United States notes and Federal Reserve notes. You can see the red ink. I remember acquiring just a few of these also in my younger years because I didn't know what they were, because the Federal Reserve notes were everywhere. But some United States notes still existed. Now, the reason why Kennedy was killed was monetary, the monetary system, so that people would not realize that United States notes are slowly disappearing. The silver coins are disappearing. In other words, the only thing people will have will be coins without intrinsic value and Federal Reserve notes. Now, Federal Reserve System is not part of the U.S. government at all. It is an independent bank that manufactures money for the government. It is not the government. Even though it says federal, it is not federal. As Eustace Mullins used to say, it's federal, but it's not the government at all. Reserve, but there are no reserves. System, and it's not a system, but a syndicate. Now, the U.S. notes were subject to the U.S. Treasury, which means the U.S. Treasury was being phased out. And so the only thing that would exist would be the Federal Reserve notes. Okay? In other words, the backing of the legal tender was no longer the United States Treasury, but the Federal Reserve System. This is legal tender also. It's not lawful money, the United States notes, but it's just the difference between the United States notes and the Federal Reserve notes. So we go back to JFK in Dallas. There's a hoax assassination. The country goes into mourning and shock, and the shock is sufficient so that almost everyone does not notice that the monetary system has been greatly devalued because there's no intrinsic value in coins, and the U.S. notes are disappearing completely, and the only thing that's left are coins that have no intrinsic value, and the Federal Reserve notes dominate. So that's all you see right now are Federal Reserve notes and coins that have no intrinsic value. But I'm just old enough to remember silver coins. In fact, there were issued what were called silver certificates, which you could take to any bank, and it was a dollar bill, and ask for silver coins, because you had a silver certificate. You can no longer get precious metal for your Federal Reserve notes. Basically, they're just paper with something printed on that have nothing to back it except the word of someone who will accept it. So I hope you've understood this, and I wanted to explain why the JFK assassination happened. The hoax existed to distract the nation from what was happening to the monetary system. Thank you for watching.